I've never had abs in my life. I have abs now. When I first started this program, there was kind of maybe a slight mark that said, hey, there might be abs coming at some point if you make a change. The fact that I can look in the mirror, I wouldn't go so far as to say shredded. I think there was maybe a couple points throughout the initial.
You're shredded. You look shredded.
There's a couple points where it's like, all right, I look cool. I saw a huge improvement in productivity, in my personal passions, again, music and stuff like that. You answered every question before I asked it. You showed a genuine interest. You genuinely made me feel like you cared about me sincerely, as if we'd known each other for years, right? You're gaining someone that's in your corner, someone that's rooting for you, someone that wants you to succeed. That's hard to put a price tag on, especially when it's genuine.
When we first got in contact, did I reach out to you or did you reach out to me?
You reached out to me. It was actually like really funny. It was very timely when you reached out, because I remember at the time, like I was in a period of kind of not in transition, but I wanted to like kind of change some habits across kind of like the general spectrum of life, whether it be habitual and finances or like activity or weight loss, whatever. And I had already kind of developed my financial plan from that period. And you reached out to me like that same night. The same day I was thinking like, I really maybe ought to think about getting someone to help me out with like a weight loss program or something, because it's just one less thing to think about. And you texted me, like Colton texted me that night. And I was like, all right, that might be a sign. Yeah, that was you.
Awesome. Sweet. So that's how it started. And then what made you realize you wanted to make a change?
For me, I guess it's important to kind of lay the background of like where I came from, like physical fitness, health wise and stuff. So I played football, as you know, I played college football, and I was an offensive lineman, right? So like I weighed 293.7 pounds at my absolute heaviest. And so like with being a college athlete, despite being a linemen are athletic. They're some of the most athletic I would know. But despite being like a lineman, you know, I was heavy and all that stuff, I always had good discipline. I was always involved in the gym. I knew how to lift. I knew how to do, you know, I knew how to exercise and be in good shape. And over the course of like the post-college years, as I started trimming down, I kind of hit a period where I was like complacent, right? Like I was probably around like 230 or so. So for context right now, I'm like 195. I was around 230 and I was like, all right, I'm okay here. I'll stay here for a while, because that's a big difference already from 290. You know? So that was for many years. And I was always okay with it. I always wanted to look better, but I also really enjoyed just kind of not worrying about what I ate or drank and just enjoying life. And that was fine. Like that was a conscious choice. But I think like just down the line, couple years later, like I eventually moved here to France, and I just wanted to like kind of change again. I wanted to get into better shape. I wanted to be the best form of myself. And so with that comes many things, whether it's mental health, financial security, physical health, whatever. And so like I mentioned at the start, I was kind of at this point where if I'm going to fix one pillar of my life, why not go all in on each one, you know? And so I really wanted to find kind of like a path to become the best physical version of myself that I could. And so that's kind of how I got to that point, if that makes sense.
So how did you know like jumping into something like this was the right path?
I'm pretty self-aware. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I can hold myself accountable to an extent, but I let myself slip a little bit too much when I want. And so I knew for me, I think the most critical aspect of kind of what we do, what you do in this project for me is the coaching aspect, the constant like access. I wake up every morning, the first thing I read is like a message from you. I'm like, yeah, I did good yesterday. Or like, fuck, yeah, he caught me. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't curse. I don't know if you're going to believe it.
I don't give a shit. I don't care.
All right. But yeah, for me, that was the thing I think I needed. That would be the difference maker. Like, again, I know how to lift. I know how to do these exercises and stuff because college football taught me all that. So it wasn't as much that. And food wise, I knew I could like find a program that would work. For me, it was really the coaching aspect, like the interpersonal aspect, and having access to a coach, which again, I had a coach all my life, college football, right? Like those people are always on you. Like, and so that works great for me. Platform that you have, the platform you use with your app is exceptional, and it's super user friendly, easy. You can throw your food in there, your lifts, like it's all inclusive. And so for me, having that combined with the personal aspect were the two things that I think I needed, and that's exactly what you provided, and it's exactly what I did need. One of the things that I think you do really well is that you answer questions before I have the chance to ask them. And sincerely, that's not a quality that everyone has or that everyone intuitively can do. But then you would follow up with explaining like why it's important, how it's relevant to the program, what's happening inside my body when I choose to do X versus Y. And so that's also very valid. For someone who loves to understand the why behind things and the reasoning, you preempt that. And so that's the aspect I think for me that really hit it out for me.
Even before you joined, like what do you feel like was your biggest hesitation with joining?
I think my hesitation would have been a little egoist, a little selfish. Like I already know most of this stuff. Like all I need to do is just lock in and just be disciplined. I can do a meal plan and I can follow it and I know how to lift, you know what I mean? But like, I had to like stop myself and say, all right, yeah, you know those things, but that again, that interpersonal, like kind of coach aspect is the thing that you don't have. And that's why you haven't been able to kind of take the next step over that line to get you to the next better version of yourself. So that was the hesitation. I already know most of this stuff. I know that if I implement it, it'll work, which was true, but I needed someone to help kind of guide that. And so that was the hesitation, the curse of prior knowledge, or the curse of experience that would have preempted me potentially from joining, if that makes sense. You can touch any level of experience and have an impact, regardless of, background. A giant 400-pound wants to weigh 150 pounds versus a former college athlete that just wants to trim up a little bit. Like, I think you can kind of help the full spectrum. Is there going to be enough of a change, enough of an impact with this seemingly at the time small change, right? The implementation of a coach, the implementation of a person to help me. Is that really going to change much or not? And the answer was absolutely yes.
Awesome. Yeah, because I think we both know that all the information's already out there.
Yeah, it is.
Nobody goes and tries to seek it,
Right. But that's also there's a time aspect to it, right? Take, for example, a version of me that didn't play college football, that didn't grow up playing sports or lifting. There's a time aspect to learn that stuff if you choose not to have a coach or a mentor or whatever. And that's a lot of time. But for me, it was years of time. For a lot of us, it's years of time to figure out how to do the gym or how to lose weight or run or whatever it is. The time aspect applies to how to eat. The time aspect applies to a lot of stuff. And so I think that's another thing that I think it's smart on your part, that you target males kind of older, probably 30s, 40s or something like that, that might be pretty well settled into a work routine, and you want to help kind of ease the burden of thoughts or of the thought and analysis.
Yeah. You're describing it very well. I like, and exactly what you're saying is, I don't want somebody to come into this and then they have an issue with like the quality of food they buy, or the fact that they may not be able to pay their bills next month. Like that stress, like you need to figure out that part of your life before you come to me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not even going to focus on it. And then you're just going to and I don't want to put you in a worse financial position.
So I started 4 months ago, started back in May. I weighed, I think that was probably 210 to 215, somewhere in that range. And I'm now sub 200. So back then, just looked kind of, I didn't look bad, but I looked like in shape, but floppy. I don't know how else to describe it, like floppy. And I knew, like, again, as I was thinking through kind of the changes I wanted to make, finance, health, whatever, I knew I wanted to lose some weight, and I just knew I wanted to look better. So I remember in your initial interview or questionnaire, I think you asked, like, what are your goals? And it could have been just weight loss, or it could have been look better, or it could have been whatever. And for me, it was just to look better. It was to look better in my form and grow out the shoulders a little bit, grow out my stupid spindly arms. And so we implemented a strategy that worked very well, I would argue, within the first 3 months, and even quicker than just 3 months. Within 6 weeks, I would say, even a month maybe, I started seeing a significant difference because I adapted my eating. We had me down to 2,500 calories a day, hitting 194 grams of protein, if I remember correctly. Not too focused or worried about the overall macros, but just protein and calories, which worked very well. It gave me the liberty and kind of freedom to do my meal plans as I wanted. So that was the first 3 months. And I knew for me, with the first 3 months, I had at the end of those 3 months a big trip, which was the festival, which you remember, which I knew, like, all right, that's going to be festival. And I knew I was probably going to hit that point and be in great shape and look good. And I did. And it was exactly where I wanted to be. I was like, all right, I'm going to let go at the festival a little bit. I did gain a little bit of weight back, but it was kind of part of the plan, right? It was kind of like, it was deliberate, at least in my head. I don't know if I verbalized that to you, but in my mind, it was like, all right, at Tomorrowland, when that's done, it's time for kick it back into gear, do the next 3 months and just keep moving forward, which is exactly what happens. And even like during the festival, I did my best to keep you up to date. And the last couple of days of the festival trailed off, and that's okay. But the point that I want to make there is that even during the festival, this interaction was still there. There would still be the check-ins. You'd be like, hey, how's it going? Like, I'd be like, dude, I ate 4 smash burgers last night at 3 a.m., and it happened. They were freaking great. But it happens, right? And that's part of the mental health side of things. It's like sometimes you got to just give yourself a break and let loose, and that's life. But that has to be a deliberate decision. It has to be a decision that you're choosing, that you're going to make up for on the back end. So after the festival, we're into month 4, and that's where we had a recent discussion where we implemented, remind me the name of the strategy, but we did start tracking all the macros across carbs, fats, proteins, calories, increased calories to 2,600, increased grams of protein very slightly to like 196, 5. And you have to remind me of the name of the process though that we're working towards now.
My version of it's called the refuel phase, because I do it slightly different. But like the generalized thing that people would know is like a reverse diet. It's a version I created of that. But what we're doing is just pretty much getting your metabolism firing as high as we can get it to go. Pretty much like on a basic level. But there's a lot more things encompassing that. It's not just the kind of thing that burns calories and you can just manipulate it any way you want. But you've seen like you're able to eat more food than you were prior, but you're staying substantially leaner.
Exactly.
So, and like you were saying with the diet break and stuff, you worked for that first of all, and second of all, like you said, you planned it. And what that creates is there's something, a lot of this journey psychological. So what you did is you got relief from that cheat meal. You know what I mean? The cheat meals. Most people, when they go and eat it, what they do is they don't deliberately do it. They don't plan it. They do it, and then they get in their own head, and then they get discouraged, and then they quit, and then they keep doing it, and then it's just this downhill battle. First, for you worked for it, and then you probably ate it, and you're like, all right, I'm good. I'm motivated now to get back into things.
Exactly.
That's the right mindset to be in, because as much as this is like a system thing, this is also like a mindset, a psychological thing as well, which you been able to go through perfectly, and you've seen it for yourself. So, and plus you're still able to live the lifestyle you want to live. And I don't think most people want to live the lifestyle they currently live. They just don't have enough self-control, you know? And then like what you were saying earlier was like, it was hard sometimes to always get yourself to do the things you know you should be doing, but having a coach, the coach has a standard of you, and that standard's set, and that's not going to change. Your standard for yourself and your mind is going to constantly can change depending on how you feel emotionally. But the coach, that's not the case.
Right.
And you've seen that for yourself.
Absolutely.
But talk more specifically about where you feel you're at now with your physique.
Physically right now, like for context, I've never had abs in my life. I have abs now. When I first started this program, there was kind of maybe a slight mark that said, hey, there might be abs coming at some point if you make a change. And I think that was kind of like the mental thing that was like, all right, I can actually do this. I'm so close. The fact that I can look in the mirror and see, like, I wouldn't go so far as to say shredded. I think there was maybe a couple points throughout the initial.
You're shredded. You look shredded.
There's a couple points where it's like, all right, I look cool. You know? So yeah, like I'm very happy with how I look. There's still like some residual kind of spots of fat, but that's one of two things. It's one, it's just normal. And two, again, I was a 300-pound dude. So there's a lot of, not a ton, but there's, skin down there that's just hanging out, and that's probably just mental for me, because it's like, as you improve, as your body changes, you want more, like you want to keep going, right? Like it becomes almost an addiction, which is one of those things that's great. Like in the diet process, you're like, man, this cheeseburger, whatever, looks awesome, but I want to look better tomorrow than I did today. So I'll do a chicken wrap, Physically, I look better than I've looked in my entire life. I'm very happy with the progress. This entire program, the whole investment, the entire process has been worth every penny. When you look better, you feel better. When you feel better, you work more efficiently. When you work more efficiently, you finish work earlier. When you finish work earlier, you can do more things you love. For some of us, work and the things we love blend, and that's a dream in and of itself. And so, like, as you're able to take all of these aspects of your life and improve them, like you become a happier person, right? And I live in France right now, and I love the culture here. I have a lot of fun with it. I do a lot with music and stuff like that. And so when I started putting in place all these changes, like I alluded to at the beginning, financial, physical, health, all of that leveled me up, if you will. And I saw a huge improvement in productivity in my personal passions, again, music and stuff like that, with my writing and DJing and producing. And then productivity at work, just focus in general. Huge. I love wine. I told you I love France. It's a great country. I really enjoy that. And so in order to keep enjoying that, like I have to be balanced. It's become easier to resist drinking or whatever. And I don't do it in excess. And in fact, in France, it's one of these European qualities that I quite admire, is the ability to go have a glass or two of wine and not have 20 and just enjoy it, like for what it is, but not to get drunk, which is kind of the dichotomy between the United States and Europe. The reason for drinking is very different. This has enabled me to enjoy it more and continue to enjoy it, just with a more deliberate approach.
Amazing. And then for you, like, what advice would you give to somebody in the same position you were in?
If someone is in a similar situation where you're at this precipice where you want to make a change, you're not sure if you need a coach, but you've got a level of experience and knowledge in the gym, and you think you can do it yourself, like I would say in that case, give it a shot and go for it, because having that extra person that's on your side, that's on your team, that's looking out for your best interest outside of the family too is helpful, because it's just blunt. It can be blunt. It can be very direct without being personal and emotional and whatever. And I would say give it a shot. I'd say go for it, because your life will become a little easier. You have less to think about. And it's just an overall kind of step up in your personal game. For anyone that wants to just look better in and of itself, what you do with, and you tailor it to each individual, of course, but what you do in your program and your approach is you make that happen, all simply. And yeah, I'd say anyone in my position should give it a shot. Okay, for full disclosure, when I started, I wanted to do 3 months because I wanted to see like, all right, what's this going to do? I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do a full year right now because I want to see results before I commit to more. And I saw it. I would say absolutely give it a shot. It works. What you do works.
Sweet. Amazing. And then I never want to be the cheapest coach, right? I'm not, by no means do I call myself like cheap or anything like that. But what if somebody's maybe seeking a cheaper option? Their decision making's within the price. What do you think of that? What's your advice with that?
Well, I would argue you're a premium option. I mean, I think that's worth stating. But I think the results are also premium, right? So like,
yeah,
I think it has to be, this decision to work with you has to be a deliberate decision of commitment from one end, like from the person who wants to do it, like of serious commitment. Because if you're going to put forward serious cash, you may as well do it correctly. You may as well put in the time, energy, and effort. You have to want it, right? Like motto for the company I worked with was you have to want it yourself more than anyone else or else it won't work. So that's important. And know that what you're paying for is going to work as long as the amount that you're paying is equivalent to your amount of motivation. Like those two have to correlate. You have to be motivated and you have to follow the plan, and you're going to get a lot more than your investment. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Seeking an ulterior option. I mean, I don't know what other options there are, to be honest, because I didn't do too much shopping for this. Again, you reached out and I was like, he looks good. I want to look better. I was in a mental space to make that decision and commit to it. And so I think you have to be in a mental place to commit yourself. And then the money is immaterial.
Amazing. Do you have any final thoughts, advice, or anything else you wanna leave off with?
I imagine that a lot of people might be surprised by your age, and the question could come to their minds: what's this dude's life experience? This dude's, coaching experience. Like physically, when you see you, at least you're like, okay, he shows that he walks the walk, right? That could be a valid question that someone might have that's 35 in my case or whatever, which I did have for what it's worth. And then we talked, right? And then you showed, again, what I talked about in the early stages of this interview. You answered every question before I asked it. You showed a genuine interest. You genuinely made me feel like you cared about me sincerely, as if we'd known each other for years, right? And I think that's really important. So I guess the parting note of that, beyond just the exchange of goods and services, in this case, of coach and money and in the project, you're gaining someone that's in your corner, someone that's rooting for you, someone that wants you to succeed, maybe sometimes more than yourself, but that's what a coach is for. Sometimes the coach has to bring you back up when you're having a rough day, rough week. That's hard to put a price tag on, especially when it's genuine. And so with you, I can tell it's genuine. You're easy to talk to. It's a pleasure to talk to you. It's fun. I enjoy doing these, and it's worthwhile. So for anyone watching that has that thought, you can get over that quickly because you're the real deal. So
I appreciate you taking the time.